Good evening and welcome. Happy Boxing Day. It's Boxing Day. That's the day after Christmas and it's a holiday in England. It's the most depressing holiday of the year. Who thought that up and why? I don't know, but it's Boxing Day. I'm starting early because Well, I'm starting early. I didn't think I'd be here on time, but I was. So I thought I'd just jump on rather than make you listen to the music 3 times. That's reasonable. And yeah, we've got a lot to cover tonight. We're going to be talking about memory. If I can remember anything about it, we'll be talking about that and giving you a couple of basic guidelines on how to pick the best memory card for yourself. But before we do that, let's take care of some Christmas type stuff. It was Christmas yesterday. Does it seem like it was Christmas a month ago? It does to me. I came back yesterday late so that I could be ready for tonight, and I'm not. But I did get back early, which is good, so I was able to do my laundry. Had a fantastic Christmas, spent the time with my children, and they're big children now, they're grown-ups, and that was nice, really nice. We had a great time. Actually went out and looked for slime molds. Didn't find any, but we looked, and that was nice. Getting the kids involved in something like that was very gratifying. But anyway, so I grew up thinking Boxing Day had something to do with fighting because of the atmosphere in my house growing up. The day after Christmas was more than anticlimactic. It was tense. Yeah, it was very tense. But I still don't know what it's really called Boxing Day for. Presumably because you're putting things in boxes, possibly. Doesn't seem very... Seems a bit pagan, doesn't it, really? The whole idea of boxing stuff up. Anyway, I don't know, so it's all speculation. But on a more serious note, I think we ought to remember the real meaning of the winter festival, the presents, that is. And I would like to know what you guys got for Christmas that has to do with us, photography-wise. And you can't have bought it yourself. It doesn't count if you bought it yourself, even if you dressed up as the corpulent chap from the North Pole, the chimney creeper, we used to call him. If you weren't given this thing for Christmas, it doesn't count. But what were you given that was exciting for a macro photographer to hear about? Tell me. Do tell me. I'll be interested. I'll tell you what I got. Some of it has nothing to do with photography, like the bath mat that I got that's made of mud. Well, it does have something to do with macro photography. It's made of diatomaceous mud. You know what that is? It's mud full of diatom skeletons. Why would you make a bath mat out of that? Somebody asked, being a smart aleck. I don't know. I don't know, but I have one now, and you can't see the diatoms. All you see is what looks like a big piece of mud. But you stand on it after you've had a shower, and it gets your feet, well, muddy, basically. I don't really understand it, but that's what it's all about. Can anybody hear me? This would be a good time for me to find out if, in fact, I'm the only person who can hear me talking. So let me know if you can. We'll see in a minute. Alistair's here, so he'll let me know faux show. So, yeah, that's what I want to know is what did you get for Christmas? Did anybody, for example, get one of these? Oh, you want to know what's in the box? I'll tell you in just a minute. What we're going to be doing today is talking about memory cards primarily. And what the best ones are, what the ones you should avoid are, and how you pick the right one for your camera. I'm not sure we can fill an hour with that. So what we'll do is we'll loop back around and look at Christmas presents. Another Christmas present that I got. It's an hourglass, but it doesn't do an hour. Nothing like it. It's more like a minute glass. But it's a very good one. This is from my friend Laney, and it's got a magnet in the bottom. See how the iron filings are doing that magnetic thing? I think this is brilliant. I've been looking at it all day long. But you have to flip it over every minute because it's a minute glass. not an hourglass, but it's fantastic, and it's got a magnet in the bottom of it. Very exciting. So what did you get? Did you get one of these or a diatomaceous hourglass? Let me know. Let me see. What else was I going to show you? I will show you what's in this box because it's pertinent for what's coming up next month. You know this month is December, right? For another week thereabouts. And when December's over, we go directly into January without a break. And January is an important month because we're doing something we've never done before. It's going to be the macro video month. It doesn't roll off the tongue, does it? And there's no way you can put January in there that makes it sound any better than it does. But that's what we're doing in January. The whole month, we're going to focus on taking moving pictures like in the old days. Only we're going to do it with our modern cameras, and some of us may even get to do it with a lens, something like this. This is a 2x macro 100mm t2.9 video cine lens, no, cine macro lens from Leiwa, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It has a declicked aperture ring. It has a very long throw focus. I mean, it's fantastic, and it's a lovely solid piece. Got a thingamajig to put your what's-it on, and I'm going to try to get my hands on a decent tripod to use with this because that's going to be an important part of success. And we're going to do some of our stuff this month outdoors, even though it's January. I think we'll probably get a few nice days. And we're going to learn how to use this out in nature, and we're going to learn how to use it in the studio. And in fact, we're going to start out the month with a general chit-chat about video, the next couple of live streams. In fact, next week is going to be the basics, and that will include getting to know this lens and what it does and why it's handy. Somebody's going to ask, do I need one of those lenses to do January this month, or can I have January without one of those lenses? Well, you can. You don't need one of these. You don't need one of these to do video, and you don't need one of these to win the video competition next month. You just need to take a video clip, which I'll talk about in just a second. But it may well be that after doing that for a while, you decide that you love it, and having something like that would be handy. And you know, if that's the case, we'll see what we can work out. But the whole point of the month is not really about the lens, or any lens or camera for that matter. It's about how you go about setting up shots, how you capture the footage, how you edit the footage. We're going to do all of that. We're going to, at the end of January, you'll be able to do some cool video stuff to put on your Instagram or whatever. And we'll start next week with the basics. We'll talk about everything you need to know to get rolling with it. But no, you don't need a fancy lens, though we're going to spend plenty of time looking at that. I would already have been doing that had it not been for a problem with adapters. That is a Canon lens. They don't make them for Nikon, and I need an EF to, what is it, EF to Z adapter, and they don't really exist in great numbers anywhere, and I've had a hard time finding one, but I did eventually track one down, and that will be hopefully here in the next day or two. Sooner the better. And once we do, then I will be mounting it on the Z8 and some type of a tripod system to use it and show you what to do. It's going to be so much fun. Where was I? There's no Pazoom this weekend, which is a very good thing for me because it is also the end of the month and we are doing the judging of the competition. And this competition was a doozy, because it's a wild card. That means so long as you're taking a picture that's, what did I say, 1:4 or 1:2. something like that. As long as it's close-up or macro, it can be anything else. You can photograph anything your heart desires, but that raises the bar pretty high, because it means we're going to get some stunning photographs. I can feel it already. So that's the plan for this weekend, is instead of doing a presume, which I did last weekend on Christmas Eve, yeah, that's what it was, Christmas Eve, we're going to be doing it not this weekend, but next weekend. And remember, the presume after that, which is 2 weeks later than that, is also the first Saturday that we're going to be doing the tangent and chamfer hour. We'll rename that soon, because I can't keep saying that. It's hard to say. So that's the plan for the next couple of weeks. And have you turned in your pictures? You're allowed 2. If you're new to this, you're allowed 2. If you put in 3, you don't get any. Ask Ingolf. Merry Christmas, Ingolf. I'll respond to your text shortly. I'm a bit behind after this holiday. Yeah, there's going to be a stunning competition, and I may end up getting some help with it in judging it. Depends on how many entries we have. Thursday's Macro Talk 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't have a chance to actually finish the cover art for it. Well, I did actually. I did finish it, but I didn't post it. And I can show it to you if it'll open up. Yeah, okay, here it is. I'm going to show it to you. So the it's still in Photoshop, I'm afraid, being made. But So Long 2023 is the topic for Thursday's discussion, and whether or not we should give it one more year, as we've been doing all along. And that's this Thursday, as always, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So there you have it. And I didn't get over to Patreon to post the weekly update because I was driving my car, and that you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to post anything on Patreon while driving. So I didn't get to do the update. So presumably a lot of people don't know that this is going on right now, but this is a test to see if they could figure it out anyway, because it is always at the same time. And we just came off, how many did we do? 104 live streams in the last 12 months. 104 of them, from Boston and from here and from here and from here. And yeah, it was good. I think we'll do that again, unless you tell me not to. So come on Thursday, and if you have ideas or thoughts, share them with me then, and we'll make a plan for next year. And, oh, don't forget Mr. Lee is coming in to talk to me one day in January. I'll let you know as soon as I know. I'm still waiting to get the word. And, yeah, so what about your Christmas presents? Has anybody turned one in yet? Has anybody given us an excited report? You know that they must have done. Nope, nobody. Alistair, are you on the job? Or is nobody coming up with ideas? I noticed there weren't very many folks here, so that's to be expected, because a lot of them are still braving the roads, I imagine, trying to drive back from wherever they were. It was pretty bad last night, the roads, but I'm sure they were shocking today. Let me see. You can hear me loud and clear. Well, that's good. And Michelle is in the spirit of Boxing Day. She's saying that she bought all the presents. She didn't get any. That's what Boxing Day is all about. It's where you assess how you didn't get any presents. Depressing holiday. Don't understand it. And Andrew's wife found a stink bug. That's nice. And she gave it to you. Well, there you go. It's a peace offering or a love offering or something. You should be glad of that. Yeah. God, that's a horrible Christmas present. Was that all you got? Just the stink bug? Maybe we should stop talking about Christmas altogether. How does one wrap a stink bug for Christmas? A proud liberal asks. Don't ask me. I've never given anybody a stink bug for Christmas. I don't think I ever would. Ask Allan what follow focus and rig he uses. No, we're going to talk about that in due course. We're not talking about that today. The whole focus thing is going to be a whole topic for our live stream, and we'll probably do a demo as well, so that you can practice the thing you need to do to make your video for the competition. A 1.4x extender for my Canon long lenses. That's what Russ got for his Christmas. That's fantastic. I've never owned one. Never owned a teleconverter. Yeah, because I don't really do a lot of tele shooting. I've got a 600mm lens. Yeah, maybe one day I'll look into getting one of them. I'm not sure I'd use it very much. But that sounds like fun. Good. And Paul Daly, he sends greetings from Berkeley, but no report on what he got for Christmas. Only 6 likes so far. Well, that's because people aren't liking it, Alistair. They want more. They want to hear more about memory cards. Then they'll like it. Let's do that. Let's start talking about memory cards. The idea here is, I don't know when you got started with your photography. I'm not really talking to the Josephs of the crowd tonight. This is one of those topics that I wish somebody had said something to me about early on in my photography career. Actually, my second photography career after the digital revolution. If somebody had said, here are the cards that you can use, and here are the cameras they go in, and here's the good and the bad and the ugly of each of them, it would have been helpful. Because I have boxes of cards that I've collected over the years of all different kinds, and I didn't really realize and they're expensive. I'd buy one because I like the color of it, or I like the advertising for it, without really understanding it. So what I want to do is just kind of give you an overview if you're relatively new to this, or if you even just have a question about what some of the numbers mean. We'll run over that, and then if it's too basic, then we'll move on to something else. But the cards we're going to be talking about are all the ones that are currently available. By available, I mean not the weird ones that you can get on eBay that aren't made anymore, or the cameras aren't made anymore. And if you collect old cameras, like I actually do, I've got one camera that records directly to a CD. A round CD, like an old record album, except it's newer than that. Yeah, it's a what is it? I can't remember. It's a Sony. It's a Sony camera. They were incredibly expensive when they came out, but you put an actual CD in the back of it and record the pictures onto that. Or was it a DVD? CD, I think. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can record your pictures onto, depending on your camera. But we're going to be talking about the modern era, the things you're likely to need for your camera today. And of those, by far the most common is the SD card. Secure Digital, I believe, is what that stands for. I don't know if that's a brand name or the type of memory. But everybody's seen an SD card, I'm sure, if unless you're here for a cooking channel and are trying to figure out what I'm talking about. You've seen an SD card. Here's an example of one. That's what they look like. Not much to them. And you probably notice it's got sticky tape on it. That's because one of the things about SD cards that I hate, and you will hate too if you use them long enough, is how flimsy they are. These things literally fall apart. I have probably 20 or 30 of them, and they all, but 1 or 2 brand new ones, have sticky tape on them, holding them together, which is terrible, because then you're sticking this inside a multi-$1,000 camera and hoping the sticky tape doesn't come off. But the point is, they have a little chip in there. This is a all solid state. There's no CDs, no spinning discs in any of this. And if you look closely at the card, now I use a lot of these SanDisk cards, but there are lots of other brands. They all use much the same convention as far as letters and numbers. I was going to take a picture of one of these. In fact, I did, but I forgot to upload it. So I'm just going to hold it up in front of the camera instead. The capacity is the big number, the thing that you'll always see in big letters, usually these days with GB after it. When I first started buying them, they mostly said MB for, you know, how many megabytes the thing held, like 30 megabytes or something, not even a picture. But anyway, now you'd get one based on the capacity, and that's in gigabytes, right? You knew that. The other numbers that you can see are if there's one number, it usually means that's the read speed, because the read speed is faster than the write speed. And if they're only going to put one number on, they'll put the fastest one on. But that doesn't tell you how quickly the thing can write. Now, when you talk about reading and writing, you're talking about writing is what happens when you take a picture with your camera. The data from the sensor is written onto this disk. And the write speed is the bottleneck when you're taking pictures. So for photographers, what really matters is how fast the thing can write. Not how big it is necessarily, and certainly not how fast it can be read. Because that, you can go have a cup of coffee while it's reading onto your hard drive. Of course, we like it to be fast, but the important number is how much data can you write to this card in a second so that it doesn't fill your buffer and you end up waiting for the card to write after you're through taking your picture and you can't take another one till it's finished. So the numbers there are very important. 170 megabytes per second is not a lot of speed these days, but it was a lot of speed when this came out, and they have continued to go up and up, as you'll see. The other numbers that are worth noting are there's a thing that says SDXC. No, hang on a sec, I'll have to read it. SDXC, yeah. That is the capacity rating. Those numbers, you've probably seen them say SDH and SD. What's the other one? I didn't write it down because I figured I'd remember it. It's SDHC. That's it. And what that means is that the ones that are just SD cards only hold up to about, what is it, a gigabyte? Maybe somewhere around then. The ones from the SDHCs will hold up to, I did write this down, 2 to 32 gigabytes. And then anything above 32 gigabytes is SDXC. They're the bigger cards. And there are cards called SDUCs that hold anywhere from 2 to 12 terabytes. 12 terabytes on one of these. Can you believe it? They're not available for cameras yet, but they will be one day. The other numbers on there are, you'll see a number V. There's a V with a digit after it on the very end there at the top. I don't think I'll be able to successfully, above my pen there. That V is the speed that it writes video. And it's usually going to be V30, V60, or V90, and it's talking about, it's actually not talking about actual numbers. The V30 is something like 30 megabytes per second write speed, and 60 and 90 megabytes per second write speed. And that's the sustained minimum sequential write speed. So that is how fast it can write when you're shooting video. And obviously, for a camera that you're shooting a lot of video with, you want a large capacity and you want a high V rating. Stands to reason. The other numbers underneath, there's one looks like the number 3 in a cup or a bucket or something, and then there's a number surrounded by a C. Okay, the C is the speed class. And it doesn't go any higher than 10. The speed class stops at 10. So I think they're all C10s now. You wouldn't want to buy one that wasn't. and the number that goes in the little bowl thing at the bottom, that is the speed class for the video. Okay, so you're looking for higher numbers, but the most important one, if you're an active type of subject shooter, you want something that is going to be fast, writing fast. That's the most important thing, and of course capacity, and of course compatibility with your camera, because not all cards are compatible with all devices. I went out and bought 2 cheap cards, but they weren't that cheap actually. 2 cards to use with my digital audio recorder, because both of the ones the cheap ones I bought before disintegrated and couldn't be used. I discovered that that's not good. The recorder that I use, the Zoom recorder, only will allow you to take up to 32 gigabyte cards. 64 gigabyte cards won't work in it. They're a different class. Yeah, you need to know that for your photography gear. Are you buying the right card? So that's the main numbers that you're interested in. Now, some cards will also give you a maximum speed, a maximum read speed, which is usually a number with an X after it, and it ranges anywhere from 45 megabytes per second in the old SD cards up to, I think, 2000, which is 300 megabytes per second. But these days there are cards that read and write much faster than that, and I'm going to be showing you them in just a second. So one way you can tell that you have a card that has a higher capacity and is a faster card is by that UHS rating, the 1 or 2. Now, did I show that to you where that was? No, probably I didn't. But the UHS rating, you can tell just by looking at the back of the card that the cards that have a double layer of these golden contacts are the UHC2 cards. They're the faster, bigger capacity ones. UHS2 cards. You know what? I don't have one. Isn't that embarrassing? They're all in cameras. I've got them all over the place. Do what I say, don't do what I do. You ever seen these itty bitty ones? They're the ones we're going to talk about next. These little boogers here. These are SD cards too, but they're micro SD cards. Guess why? Right, because they're little. Now these are actually much the same as the big ones in that you can use them interchangeably. This is something that people don't always recognize. If you've got a few of these sitting around, you can actually use them in their adapter. Make sure you have the right adapter for the card, and this can then go in your camera. The problem is these little bitty cards tend not to be as high capacity and not to be as fast. There's something else that they don't do well. I can't remember what it is. They're not as big, and they don't write as fast, is what it is. So the video rating's usually lower. So even though these are often sold with very compact video cameras and recorders, if you put one of these in your big DSLR or your big mirrorless, you might run into problems, but you can use these. Just be aware of the fact that they're hard to keep up with. If you've ever lost one of these little cards, the inside bit, yeah, drop it on the floor, you hardly ever find it. They get vacuumed up a lot. So I'm not crazy about them. I use them in the devices that have to have them, the subcompact things. The DJI, the Pocket Osmo, uses these, and I like that because it just slots right in the side. You don't have to have the adapter or anything like that. Okay, so that's the the basic overview of the most common card, and I would say that most people have got a camera that has got a slot for at least one SD card. All of my cameras have a slot for a backup SD card that can be used for overflow or for backup. But I still have one camera that I use every day that has SD as a primary card. In fact, no, that's not true. I have two. My Fuji also uses SD cards. The default is your camera probably uses SD cards if it doesn't use one of the big expensive ones. Everything else will be SD. So let's talk for a little bit about the hot new ticket item out there, which is the CFexpress. The CFexpress is an interesting card. They came out with three of them, or three different companies developed these cards, and they're called CFexpress because they plug into the PCI Express lane on your computer's motherboard or fatherboard, I guess. It's a very fast way to transfer data, and they first came out in like 2016, and the first ones to come out were called the A type. Now they're big cards and they're expensive cards, and they only work on like 3 cameras in the whole world. Not 3 actual individual cameras, but 3 kinds of cameras. They're all Sonys. The Sony, what is it? The A7 III, A7 IV, yeah, something like that. And then the A7R5. The 3 newest Sonys all use these Type A CFexpress cards. They're very expensive. They're very fast. They're about 3 times faster than the fastest SD card that you can buy. But because they're just for Sony, they're really expensive, and they sell for something like anywhere from $180. No, it's closer to, hang on, $400 for the 160 gigabyte one. That's right. So the Type A cards are costly, and they're fast, but they're not dizzyingly fast. I mean, the read speed on the Type A CFexpress is about 800 megabytes per second with a write speed of about 700, which is a huge step up from SD. But at the price, it's still a good bit short of the next CFexpress card, which we're going to talk about, which is the Type B. Now, the Type B is bigger. It's made by almost every company in the world that makes this kind of media. SanDisk, Lexar, Sony, and Delkin probably makes the most interesting and exciting line of these things. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But these things are blindingly fast. These read at 1730 megabytes per second and write at 1540. That's compared to my XQD cards. We'll talk XQD in just a second. This is actually a fairly old kind of card. It's been around since 2012. These things read and write at 400. These things, these Delkins, read and write around 16 to 1700 megabytes per second. That is incredibly fast. They also plug right into the PCI Express, and there are all kinds of options out there to choose from in the Type B. Now, almost all of the cameras, the high-end cameras that used to use just XQDs have switched over to where you can now use the CFexpresses in them. And this is important because these are priced much more reasonably than either the XQDs or the CFexpress Type A. The Type Bs, whether you get the basic, this is a 128 gigabyte card. When I got my D850, I got several of these XQDs that cost $120 each, and they're 64 gigabytes. This is twice the capacity, sorry, I keep hitting the microphone, 128 gigabytes on a CFexpress, which is about $100. And that's for something that's 3 times the speed of the XQD at its fastest. So this is the way to go these days. If you want speed at a good price and capacity, this is the way to go. Now, they come in all different flavors. Delkin has, in addition to having their power line, which is the more reasonably priced one, they have a more expensive ruggedized one. Now, I did not come up with that word. That was a word that has been appearing in literature lately, ruggedized. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It seems made up. But this is a much sturdier card than any of my the XQDs. They have a metal back on them, but they don't have metal bracing like this, the black Delkin does. It has an actual metal housing that holds it together. These things have been getting some really good reviews for their hardiness, and they only cost a couple of bucks more. In fact, they probably cost less than the power ones because they have a bit more capacity. That's 150 gigabytes on that card, and that's $130. And I am going to pause to thank Susan Seaford for providing these for me to test and compare to other media. I have not dipped a toe into actually using the CFexpress media on my new camera, but I was planning on doing that. I was talking about it just last week, and these arrived over Christmas, so this is fantastic, and I plan to be using these things non-stop to see if the speeds are really what they say they are. According to everything I've read, they are, and they're also the blacks are just about indestructible. Now, the less expensive power Delkin, the CF Express, that has actually higher write speeds than the black. It has write speeds of 1700 megabytes per second and reads at 1780. That is so fast. So what do you think is the bottleneck if you're using these cards? It's having a computer that's fast enough to download that volume, that torrent of data. I cannot wait to plug it into the Apple Studio and see what it does, because it's got to be fast. I mean, it's fast with the XQD. But anyway, in my opinion, this is now the card to beat. If your camera supports the CFexpress Type B, that is the card that everything else is going to be chasing after. And one other thing about the Delkin, which blew me away when I learned about it, they take their warranty very seriously. And if you register your discs like I did after you get them, and because these are made mainly for pros, because of the size and the speed, if something happens and your disc breaks, they guarantee having a replacement disc in your possession within 48 hours. That's pretty amazing. I can't guarantee anything in 48 hours. That's not long enough. But yep, Delkin does. They'll replace it. Either you can walk into a shop and do it in 10 minutes, or you can do it over the internet and you'll get it within 48 hours, which is pretty amazing if you rely on having working equipment for your job. So the one other thing, I said there was only one other thing. There were 2 other things. You are going to have to get a reader that can read as well as your disc can write and read. That seems rather obvious, it is rather obvious. I'm going to see if I can find my XQD reader. I don't know what I did with it. I was just using it this afternoon, but I had to buy an expensive XQD reader when I bought my XQD cards, because nothing else would read them. And they get you when you buy them, but you have to buy one that will read and write at the speed that your cards do, or you're wasting the money on the cards. This was an incredible deal. My gift from Susan included not just the CF card, but also the reader. And this is a state-of-the-art reader. It reads as fast as the discs, and it has a dust cover to protect the inner workings, which my Sony does not have. And yeah, I've had to clean it out a few times. I've only tested this with a couple of small files, but it is blindingly fast. It also has a slot for an SD card in the side, and you can actually download from both at the same time. So if you're using the SD not as a backup but as a sequential write, you can download both at the same time, which is amazing. So that's it, and that was included in the price of the CFexpress Type B Power from Delkin. What a deal that was. Yep, excellent. So the XQDs, they've been around since 2012. I have a box of them that they have held up physically. They've held up better than any SD card ever could. And they really were only used by high-end Nikons. It was the big full-frame Nikons were the only things that used these in the mass market that I'm aware of. Now, I think some others added it later on, some of the big high megapixel cameras, but in the mass market, it was the D850 and the D500 were the two that used these first, I think. And they have a read and write speed of around 400. In fact, I think they might read at 440 and write at 400. But either way, they're lightning fast compared to the best of the SD cards, and I have enjoyed using them. I really have. They are left in the dust by the CF cards. Absolutely. So there's not much else to say about them other than the fact that they're crazy expensive. The 64 gigabytes are still $120, which is more than twice as expensive for the data capacity as the CFexpress Type B. There is another that you've probably heard of called Compact Flash. That's the CF Type C. And it is it's a big old card. It's the biggest of the cards, and they're big and they're thick and they're heavy. Not many cameras used them that I'm aware of. Was that that strange noise that came from my computer? That wasn't you doing that, was it? Trying to attract my attention. Don't know what that was. So the Compact Flash, they've been around since 1994. They're antiques now, I would say. And they're still around. There are still a few places that use them. But back in the day when they first came out, only Kodak used them, and only one camera. Their DC-25 was the first camera to use that thing. And it was a very popular camera because of that, because it had such a big capacity. Now, they use a different numbering system for how fast they are, but seeing as the fastest one is called a UDMA7, is not fast at all. Probably don't need to mention it. In fact, you probably don't need to get one of these cards unless you absolutely have to, because your camera still uses them. But they're cheap. 32 gigabyte from Lexar of the big compact flash is only $35. $100, well, that's SanDisk has a 128 gigabyte one for $100, but that's still more expensive than the CF Type B. So yeah, it's just not a lot of use for them. There are a couple of other cards that you shouldn't confuse. You may see these in the shops though. One is called the CFast card. You could easily confuse that with CF if you thought F was an abbreviation for fast. But the CFast cards are pretty much only used for video, and that's the kind of card that you can use with your video camera. Your Arri or your Red uses something different, but Canon video cameras, the Blackmagic cameras, Arris, they will take these cards. And that's the CFast, and that's different. Don't get a CFast for your stills camera, because I don't think any stills cameras use them. And there are loads of kind of obsolete card systems that you can still buy them through eBay for ridiculous amounts of money if you still have a camera that uses them. Things like the XD cards and the Sony memory sticks that went in some of the Sony cameras. Anyway, yeah, there was another one, Smart Media, and then CDs. You can buy CDs. You know that? At the thrift shop, they sell them in big boxes of blank CDs. Probably don't know what they are or what you're supposed to do with them. So that's really, that's the memory card scene right now. That's what they are. SDs, the various different flavors of CFs, the XQDs, and then the special stuff, which you're not interested in, and the micro SDs, of course. So what is the best memory card? What is it you should aim for when you're at the shop and you're looking at this bewildering array of cards? First thing, find a card of a type that is compatible with your camera, because no matter how good the price is, it's useless if it won't work in your camera. Okay, so get the kind that your camera needs. Second, you need to get the fastest card that you can afford. And that is the key number, is the speed at which it writes. So the write speed, the second number that they usually give you, 1700 for this, 400 for the CFexpress, and gosh, pretty slow for the SDs. You want to buy the fastest card you can get for the money that also gives you the capacity that you need. Now, there's an argument to be made for not using very high capacity cards. And if you're shooting video, that argument doesn't make any sense, because you would want the biggest cards you possibly could get to hold all of that data. But if you're shooting stills, and I do subscribe to this, beyond a certain amount, you're just risking a huge loss if you lose a card. The reason I went with 64 gigabytes on my card is, on my XQD cards for the D850, is I can fill one of these cards in a shoot. And if I'm stacking, I can easily fill 3 of them in a morning. But if you fill this card, you have to get another one. And if you lose one of them, you've only lost a portion of your pictures. So that was handy. They're cheaper in the smaller capacity, usually more so than just half the price for half the capacity. There's a curve that goes with it. But as you go with the smaller cards, you can usually get them cheaper or at a discount or on sale. So there's that argument too. But really, if you're going for purely the smartest buy, it would probably be the highest capacity, fastest card that you can afford. And that's saying something, because the affordable part for the speed is without question going to be on the CF media if you have a camera that will take it. And more cameras are using these CFexpress Type Bs. Nikon obviously is using them, but so is Fuji, and I think Canon does too. So these are popular. You're still going to pay a premium for the really big cards. By big cards, I mean 500 and what is it, 56, for something like that. Whatever double the one below it is, or a terabyte or more. Yes, you will pay hundreds of dollars for one of those cards. Personally, I would be too nervous having that much capacity on a single card unless I was shooting video. So I would decide on a card that is within the capacity of your camera to use, that has the fastest possible write speed so that you're not buffering, and to get the most that you can afford. There is going to be a price break at some number of gigabytes. When the 64s came out, the cheapest ones, the price break was about 16 gigabytes. And then when it got up to 128, then you could start buying the 64s at a good price. That's why I got these. So there's always a break, and above that break they get super expensive because they're relatively specialized. But yeah, the trick is, don't get a slow card if you've got a camera that you're going to be focus bracketing with, or if you shoot bird photography and you're rattling off shots by the 100. Don't use something that's slower than your camera. Get something that will write that fast. So to me, it's a no-brainer. There really is only one card these days that belongs in a camera like the Z8, and that is going to be one of these CFexpress Type Bs. I'll be very interested to see what others think about that, and if there are any arguments that I've missed that maybe would mitigate against spending the money on the CFexpress cards. But even that is unlikely, because they're cheaper than almost everything else for the capacity. So some cards are ruggedized, like the black CFexpress Type B. I strongly recommend, if you are taking in and putting cards, if you put a card in your camera and then use a cable to connect the camera to your computer and you never take the card out, I don't think there's a whole lot of point spending the money on a ruggedized one. But if you're like me and you have boxes full of them and you're taking them in, taking them out, dropping them on the floor, they're constantly being reformatted and in and out of different cameras, get the rugged versions, because I have had to throw away so many of these cards that just fall apart. They're thin, cheap plastic, and they fall apart. The ruggedized ones are thick, cheap plastic, and they don't fall apart as quickly. Yeah, the couple of rugged ones I've got have still got tape on them though. I have to use tape to hold the little tabs, the safety tab that prevents you recording over one. Yeah, I have to tape them over because they just, after a few uses, they just get all wobbly and will fall off inside your camera. We talked about using the SD and the micro SD interchangeably in some equipment, not in all, but in some cameras you can get away with that. In addition to the ruggedizing, there are a couple of other things that you may or may not get when you buy one of these cards that has value and you should think about when you're figuring up the cost. The 48-hour deal on these Delkin cards, that right there moves this way up in value to me. I mean, to be able to, you drop your XQD card in the mouth of an alligator or something, and that's it. You're done. There's no. You've got to find a shop that sells them, which is hard, and go buy another one. But yeah, being able to replace that in 48 hours, that is value added. Let me see. There are some cards that get a reputation with some camera brands. Listen to what your fellows are saying. If they're telling you horror stories about a particular brand of card, don't buy it. If the card you're buying costs, let's say it's a CFexpress card and it has 256 gigabytes of memory on it, and it's selling for $11. Right. It's not a real CF card. It's probably not even a memory card, but it's definitely not what you think it is. They generally cost about the same wherever you buy them. They're the kind of thing that they're a commodity. They have a price that people will recognize. If you see them for a fraction of that, you're getting taken by a scammer. And it almost certainly won't be what you think it is, and it definitely won't be the brand you think it is. There's lots and lots of bootleg stuff out there. Your best, safest bet is to buy your cards from an Adorama or a B&H or a local camera shop, somewhere that you trust. eBay and buying them from street corners, from men in anoraks, bad idea. They're probably not what you think they are. Let me see. I talked about the most important number, but I'll repeat it. It's the write speed, not the read speed. The read speed's the fastest of the two. The write speed's the more important. So you always want to get the one that gives you the highest write speed. And high-speed cards need high-speed readers. Stands to reason, doesn't it? Yeah, don't forget that. And don't buy a card that doesn't have a way to plug it into a current USB 3.2. There's no point having one of these if you're plugging it into an old USB Type A, because that will be your bottleneck. This can be as fast as you like, and it's not going to do any good. If you're got a modern computer or a newish computer, get the best USB rating, the most recent one that they have, give you the fastest transfer rates. And that's about it. That really covers everything that I had to say. There are probably other types of memory card that I'm not thinking of. Joseph will tell me what they are. In fact, I should look at that right now. We've just got a few minutes left, so let me see. Did anything show up? I'm not sure that my Telegram is working. Alistair, have you sent me a message on Telegram? Because it doesn't appear to be. I'm not getting any joy from the thing. Anyway. We'll assume that it is not working, and that will probably explain why I didn't get any messages at the last live stream. Let's look at the regular chat thing. Let me see. I've got to get that over here because I'm not normally allowed to look at this. All right. Yeah, loads of comments over here. Bud asked Joseph something, and Joseph said, yeah, 10,000 or 100,000 is the answer. Okay, there you go. Now you know. 10,000 or 100,000. Do cards have a maximum number of reformats? So that was the question. What's recommended? By the way, do you format your cards in your camera, the camera that you're using them in? Yes, you do. Yes, you should. You can format them elsewhere, but it's where errors come from. It's where mistakes happen. Format it so that the camera is using the file system that it wants to directly onto the card, so that your computer will know what to do with the images. I always, when I put a card, a new or a card that's had pictures on it, into the camera, the first thing I do is format it and erase it and format it if it's got pictures currently on it, and always do it in the camera. What I do is I mark my discs with the camera that they belong to, or the equipment they belong to, so that I don't constantly reformat them for different systems. I think that is part of the problem of accumulating errors. My XQDs are numbered, and that way I know, first of all, which one I've used, so that I use them in order 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So it's a good idea to do that if you have multiple cards to keep track of them. It became vital when the X8 came, I mean the Z8 came into my life, because I couldn't, if I used these cards in the Z8 without reformatting them, the pictures were lost because they were not recorded in the same format. Don't ask me why, but it caused all kinds of Lightroom problems. So yeah, format them in your camera for sure. Let me see. Bud, you will get to 100,000 in no time flat. I feel confident. In so many years, never had a card fail in the camera or in the reader. I might just be lucky, since I do know people who lost them due to failed cards. I've had, excuse me, I've had 2 cards fail, both SDs, and the failure consisted, in one case, of a physical explosion. The thing, ejecting it from the camera, came apart into pieces. I tried to glue it back together and to read the data off it, but I could never get it to work. The other one just died digitally. Suddenly it was not recognized by the computer or the camera. So I've had 2, both of them full of pictures, both of them a bit agonizing to lose, but I recognize that data is transient and these media aren't perfect. So the trick is to go with the ones that you hear the least horror stories about, and SanDisk has always been that for me. And Sony is another one that gets a good rep. And Delkin's the one I'm going to be talking about, because so far the experience has been wonderful with them. So there you go. Roy says memory cards and SSDs have to be plugged into a dock once in a while, or they can lose or change data. Yeah, that is a good point. That these completely solid state things do have to be energized periodically. I know that I was amazed to hear this when they first came out, but SSDs actually have a shelf life. They start falling apart memory-wise at something less than 1 million years, which is what I would have thought. In fact, for archiving, you're probably better off putting stuff on an old disk that is not going to lose the data, at least not at the same rate. There is some acceptable rate of data loss from one of these SSDs. I read about it the other month, but I can't remember what it said. I'm sure that one of you guys will know. Let me see what else. CDs, DVDs, very reliable. Yep, not a lot of storage. Yeah, I don't have, I have all of my images archived on regular HDD external hard drives. I have eight terabyte drives that are full. Well, as full as you're supposed to keep them. I don't have a RAID array though. They're just kind of archived, and then they're offline. I move them off the computer. So yeah, that's a different kind of storage altogether, and certainly worth discussing at some point. Is that a better way to do it, or should I be storing them in the cloud, or what? That is interesting, though. I gosh knows how much an account would cost to store that many terabytes in the cloud. What would 8 times 8? That's a big number, isn't it? That's like 64. What would 64 terabytes of cloud storage cost per month? Don't know. I have a feeling it would be more than the nothing that I pay to store the discs now. Yeah, Okay, well, Robert found this useful, having all this information about memory cards. I'm glad, Robert. Merry Christmas to you. Glad you did. 2946 watches, which is not bad for Boxing Day when most people are just under the covers crying still, because it is a terrible holiday. Let me see. Roy and Joseph are talking about something without read limits. Most people won't reach their read-write limit, says Roy. Joseph, I've had a Lexar fail in camera and in mission-critical automotive computers. Well, time to change, Joseph. Get a different card. Yeah, stopped using Apple stuff. Well, okay, there you go. I didn't. Let me see. 1983. They're off talking about old computers now, so I'm gonna leave that conversation. Paul asks, what dark secrets have you for backup? Many big disks? What dark secrets have you for backup? You don't want to hear my backup advice. You really don't, because I have terrible discipline about it. I don't keep multiple copies at different sites. I don't do anything that I'm supposed to. Even my Backblaze for some reason stopped working. So I'm not going to give you advice on how to do backup, because I need to find somebody to get advice from. I am terrible about the way I archive. So we'll leave it at that. Michelle Cox pays $10 a month for a crash plan. Technically unlimited, but they may balk at 64 terabytes. Yeah, most people do. And that's a cloud plan. Okay. You know, you've got to worry about cloud plans. What if they go out of business? What if Apple goes out of business? Do you lose all your pictures? I imagine you do. Or you have to go out and buy 8 terabyte drives and download them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what do you tier your photographs? I have some photographs that are so important to me, or they're so crucial to they're the ones that I would want to leave behind if something happened. So yeah, they're kept somewhere else. They're kept in 2 places. In fact, some of them are kept in more than 2 places. But the rest of them, the rubbishy ones, yeah, just 1 copy. Adobe charges $10 a month for 1 extra terabyte. That sounds about right, Anaphylaxis. Oh no, that wasn't you that said that. You said, my husband got me a studio backdrop frame and backdrop. And you don't do any studio work. Well, you do now. You do now. That was your Christmas present. I'm taking it. That you're the only person that has answered that question of what you got for Christmas. Somebody else must have got something. Thank you, Anna, for sharing that. That's I use my studio stuff for macro too, or for product. It's good for that. SanDisk. No one ever got fired for buying SanDisk. Yep, I never. Well, you know, they're the ones that fell apart. They're the ones that are not ruggedized, that's for sure. So, let me see. Paul thought so, just like me. I think that might be an answer to my cop-out about how I do my backup. Klaus, I didn't notice had come in. Oh, it was Klaus that told me about Adobe charging $10 per terabyte. Too much that would be. That would be $860 a month for storage. Todd wants to know, do you ever delete a stack? Yes, I do. I do delete stacks. I delete the stacks for images that I deem irredeemable. But I don't delete the stacks from pictures that I think are successful. And I used to delete the stacks, but I discovered that with new technology and new experience on my own part, as I got to be a better editor, I discovered that some of these pictures that I had been throwing away the stacks on were actually quite good if I was to use, say, selective stacking and stopping the stack early. And as soon as I realized that I was potentially throwing away very good images, I stopped throwing them away completely, which is why, I shoot a lot. And that some of these stacks are massive, and I do keep them. I keep them because until I'm forced to, I'll just have them as backup. I did for a while save my slabs instead of my source files, and that I would always do. I always save the slabs because I can retouch from them. Good question though. It is a lot, and I'll be honest, a big part of it is just laziness. I could, when one of my drives is filling up, I could take the time to sit down and throw out all the stuff that I don't need and not buy another drive, but just consolidate a couple of them. But it's quicker to run to Walmart, get another drive and plug it in, to be honest, and that's what I do. So, as I said, I'm not the person to talk to about good practices for backing up. Oh, we're way out of time. Do note that RAID is not backup. Right. I use the word backup even. I do that wrong. But yes, RAID is not backup. It's just me. Tell us what it is in one sentence or less. 8 terabyte RAID with mirrored disks. Right. Lots of people answered. Need to scroll up more. Oh, geez, the Christmas present thing. Well, I didn't realize there were this many pages of... I thought it was just the last page. Holy mackerel, you guys have been chattering away. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, moved away from CF cards because Larry bent a pin in his D100. Yeah, there you go. So what did people get for Christmas? I don't see it. Oh, Bud got a 25 millimeter layover. Oh, fantastic. The 2.5 to 5 times. That is exciting. Well done. Yeah, Andrew's still going on about his stink bug, and it did get wrapped, so that's good. Let me see. He put it straight in the jar of death. That was instead of wrapping it. Okay. And Robert was here, and I didn't say hi to him. Of course, I didn't say hi to anybody. I would have said hi to Larry and Rob and Michelle and Eric. Sony Mavicus, that's the thing. That's the one I had that had the CD or a floppy disk, whatever it is. I've got one of those in the other room. Can't make it work though. Never had an SD card fall apart, Michelle Cox says. I am rough on them, but yeah, there you go. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to read these messages, and I won't be able to answer them because we'll be offline. But if you wrote a message, I will read it. And if any of them are really funny and something to repeat, I'll talk about them on Thursday. But for now, I'm gonna call it quits so that I don't keep everybody up past their bedtime. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Susan. I'll write to you shortly to thank you for these cards. This is great. Really moves the discussion forward. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on Thursday for Macro Talk 2. No Presume this weekend, but I will be doing a video for the competition on New Year's Day. Okay, I'll put it out on New Year's Day. Thank you so much for coming. Merry Christmas, Happy Boxing Day, and if I don't see you before it, I wish you all a Happy New Year. We'll talk before then, won't we? Yeah, we will. Take care. Good night, everybody.